Hello, and welcome to the Applicant Podcast. I'm Rebecca Tripp, and today I have with me Emeline Nozieres. So, Emeline, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you for having me.
So, let's just dive right in and get started. So, can you provide a quick introduction on who you are and just tell us a bit about who you are and what you're currently up to?
So my name is Emeline Nozieres. I'm originally from France. I've been living in Canada for more than 10 years now. I recently graduated from the Immigration Consultant Program at University of Montreal, and I passed the college entry to practice exam to become a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I also work at Montreal International as a paralegal in the International Mobility team. Montreal International is the economic promotion agency for the Greater Montreal. So I don't know if you know it, but it's a non-profit organization, and it's mandated to attract foreign investment, international organization, entrepreneur, talented workers, and students.
Wonderful. Well, and congratulations on passing that exam. That's quite
Thank
exciting.
you. Yeah, that's a big
Um,
achievement.
So before we dive into the details of the program that you took, can you walk us through your past education and why you decided to enroll in the immigration consultant program in the first place?
Mm-hmm. So I have degrees from France. I have the equivalent of a bachelor degree in political science and a master degree in corporate social responsibility. But I've never really worked in this field as I traveled a lot. I moved overseas. I went to Canada 10 years ago, first Alberta and then Quebec. So 2 years ago, I was working an administrative job and I wanted to get a move on my career. So I looked around. I already had an interest in immigration because I've been through the process myself, and I also met a lot of immigrants, and I found their story fascinating. And I heard about the program at University of Montreal. So I did my research. I spoke with an immigration consultant, and I decided to enroll because it's the profession. It's really what I was looking for. Like you can be autonomous, like you can have your own practice, you can work for a firm, you can work for a university, from home, from an office, and you work with people mostly. So you heard people stories, and it's with human. So it makes sense for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially with a political science background, that is
Mm-hmm.
very relevant to the immigration consultant profession for sure.
Yeah, actually, yes.
Yeah. So, you recently graduated from the new RCIC designated program offered at Université de Montréal. Um, can you tell us a bit about what the eligibility requirements were to be able to register for that program?
Yes, so first you have to speak French because it's a French-speaking university, so you have to speak French and be able to prove it. So I think depending of your background, if you studied in French or if not, you have to pass an official test or something like that. And you have to have a degree, a bachelor degree. And then I know there is limited room in the program, and I'm not sure how they select the student. So I'm not sure if it's first come, first serve, or if they look at the file of the students. But I know we were maybe 100 students in the promotion.
Wow, that's a big program.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So can you tell us about the program itself? It is a relatively new program, so I'm sure a lot of people, myself included, like we really don't know what the program is like.
Mhm.
So maybe you can touch on how long the program is, if it's part-time or full-time, and what are some of the courses that you had to take?
Mhm. So you can take the program full-time or part-time. If you take it full-time, it's almost 1 year. So it's 10 courses with 30 credit, 3 credit for each courses. All of the courses are evening courses, so you can take it if you work in the same time, or you can take it if you don't work, if you want to study during the day, depending on your personal situation. The courses are about immigration and citizenship, permanent residency, temporary residency. There is a special course about Quebec immigration law, ethics, refugee, family class, and inadmissibilities and remedies, and also how to set up your practice. Those are the courses.
Wonderful.
It's online, all online. It's a mix of recorded courses and live courses.
Oh, interesting. So you didn't have to be in the classroom for any of the courses?
Actually, no, not in the classroom, but you have to attend the class at the time that was set up with the professor.
Right, right. So that way there's like live communication going on. Gotcha. Okay. So out of all the courses that you took, what was your favorite course and also your least favorite course?
Surprisingly, I love the course about the refugees and inadmissibility and remedies, mostly because the teachers were passionate and brilliant. But I thought I would go into economic immigration. That's what I said, surprisingly. Also, the course about how to settle your practice was very interesting because it's practical. It gives us a lot of information about what our career will be like. Yeah, I think the courses I liked less was the last one. It was supposed to be like a synthesis of the program, but I thought it was not practical enough.
Fair. Yeah. And in immigration, so I did my immigration course at Humber College back in 2020. And it was very practical, which is good, right? It's getting you ready for the profession. So I can see why one of your least favorite courses would be one that's not as practical, because all the other ones are very practical. So generally speaking, what can you tell us about the teachers? Like, who were they? Were they lawyers, immigration consultants? Did they have their PhD? Like, who were the teachers?
Most of the teachers were lawyers, immigration lawyers. Some of them were regular professors with the university and others on their own cabinet, their own law firm. We only had one teacher that was an immigration consultant. And I think it's not enough personally because I think the student would benefit from more feedback from actual immigration consultant because it's a little bit different. So that's one of the points I think could be improved.
Yeah, absolutely. There's pros and cons with like having an immigration lawyer versus an immigration consultant teaching an immigration consultant program, right? And the governing bodies and differences between immigration consultants and lawyers are vast. Like there is a big difference between the two. So yeah, it'd be nice if you had a bit more of a mix.
Yeah, maybe a mix would be great.
Yeah. So you just touched on one of the changes that you would make with the program. Is there any other changes that you feel would be beneficial for future students?
Well, it's a new program, so of course there is room for improvement. For like the organization, communication, but yeah, the first thing is like more immigration consultant as teachers, and maybe more practical courses. What could be great as well is that if the university speaks more with the college, so we can have more accurate information about what's next and what is the reality of being part of the College of Immigration Consultants, because we felt that there was not more communication. And yes, that's it.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to when I was at Humber College. Yeah, so the governing body is the CICC. It used to be the ICC-RC, and they recently changed it along with changing the courses. It used to be 11 colleges and universities across Canada that offered it, and now there's just two. The school that you went to in Montreal and Queen's University as well that offers the English course. But yeah, there really is, it almost feels like there's like a wall in between the education and the college and the curriculum
Exactly.
and actually like getting licensed. So that's interesting that they haven't, I guess they're working on it, right? Like breaking down that barrier, and hopefully there will be more communication between the two organizations moving forward.
Yes, because I think the program is just the beginning of your
Yeah.
career. Like it's just the first step. So you have to know what's next. And yeah, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. When I so I'm a licensed paralegal in Ontario as well. And I had to do a paralegal accredited program, and then I did my licensing with the Law Society of Ontario. And there as well, it felt like there was a wall. Like there wasn't a lot of resources and information on like what happens after graduation. It was basically like, here's your diploma and like spread your wings and fly. And like you just you just kind of figure it out on your own. And I mean, one thing, since we're just kind of like brainstorming here, one thing that would be really helpful is if they had someone from the governing body like come and talk directly to the students.
Yes, that would be perfect.
It would be so wonderful, even to just like have someone be like, hey, like this is the organization, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. It doesn't even have to be a Q&A, though that would be wonderful. Just having that person to introduce you to this new governing body, who's going to be taking like your membership fees every year. That would be helpful. So what advice do you have for those interested in registering in this program?
I would say go for it, but be curious because the courses are interesting, but it's mostly textbook, so it's not enough. Read what you can, precedent, practical cases, article, books, also talk to experienced professionals, maybe volunteer, because the law changes fast and you will learn the job in practicing. So I think this is the key. Just look further. And also, even if the program is online, try to build relationships with the other students because you will help each other. Everyone comes from very different backgrounds, so they have different experiences. You will support each other, and also you will build your networks for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in university, I did not worry about my network at all. Like I just kind of put my head into the books and like that was it. And when I went to college, I tried to, well, I maybe try is not the right word. I was forced into it because there's a lot of group projects and whatnot, but you actually do get a very different education if you're like working with other people and like pinging ideas off of each other. And like did you understand what that assignment was? Because like I don't understand what that assignment is. It does help. And then after graduation you then now have these resources when you're in the profession. So yeah, I highly agree with that that piece of advice as well. I think that's a really good one. So last question. What I always ask this question at the end of my podcast, because this podcast is about education, immigration, and the law, and there is maybe a younger audience that's watching. So I always like to ask, what one piece of advice would you give your 18-year-old self if she was sitting right in front of you?
Well, that's an interesting question. I would say that you don't have to choose your career right now at 18 and just take every opportunity to learn. Like there is a long path. So just learn what you can and you can change. You can choose something different and every experience is worth it.
Wonderful. That's really good advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and to talk about your educational journey so far. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they have more questions?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So just send me a message and I will be happy to chat and to answer your question about the program if you have some.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast.
Thank you.
So that's all for my interview with Emeline. After we stopped recording, her and I continued on chit-chatting a bit, and we started talking about the licensing exam. And I wish I would have had the episode still recording when we had that conversation, because it was actually really interesting to compare notes between when she wrote the exam and when I wrote the exam. So just a quick recap. I wrote my licensing exam in February 2021, where she wrote her exam very recently with the new curriculum and under the new governing body. When I did it, I was under the ICCRC, is now the CICC. Another quick side note, when I wrote my exam, the system crashed halfway through writing. So we all got booted out, and like 5 days later, I was able to log back in and write the rest of my exam. Not fun, would not wish that on my worst enemy, but that is part of my story of how I became a immigration consultant. So to summarize the differences between the two, when I wrote my exam, it was 140 questions in a 3-hour time period, and it was open book. So I could have all the materials, all the hard copy materials that I needed. I used my textbook. I have all my tabs, of course, because I love tabs. And I created this binder as well. Again, all my tabs to help me write the open book exam. When she wrote her exam more recently, it was 135 questions versus my 140. So they dropped 5 questions. But it was still over a 3-hour time period. Both were online, so that hasn't changed. But her exam was closed book. So that is something that I find really interesting, is that her exam was closed book. When I wrote my licensing exam to become a licensed paralegal, that was an open book exam as well. So now it's a closed book exam. And what she was saying was that it was more about ethics, and the exam was more about what an immigration consultant can do and cannot do. Where my exam was very heavy on the detail and the content of immigration law. I remember like there was even a question on like what section is this referring to, and you had to like, the multiple choice questions were just like numbers of sections. Like that's how detailed it was. So yeah, so that's the summary of the changes that they've made. I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with her. It was really interesting to see how they've been changing things and what the new program is like. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to her or I. I think we're both happy to stay connected with this audience and to answer any questions that you may have. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and tune in again next time for another episode of the Applicant Podcast. Bye.